Hard West 2 is an upcoming turn-based tactics game that takes place in a twisted version of the Wild West. Now, I'll admit that I knew little about this project, but after a recent preview, Catherine was keen to tell me why Hard West 2 is a refreshing take on the genre that fans should really have on their radar. So join us today as we discuss why Hard West 2 is a supernatural tactics game that's definitely one to watch. Enjoy. Hello, Catherine. How you doing?
I'm good, Liam. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm very excited to hear about Hard West 2, which is a game that you've recently been playing, but I know nothing about this, so I'd absolutely love it if you could tell me what is Hard West 2 and why should people be excited about it?
So Hard West 2 is a cowboy turn-based tactics game. A little bit like your XCOM, your Gears Tactics, those sorts of style of games. As you could probably guess from the title, this is a sequel to 2015's Hard West. I wouldn't say that you've needed to have played Hard West to understand or kind of appreciate Hard West 2, that this is a separate band of characters doing a completely different story. It does borrow a lot of the same systems. There are things like trick shots. You can bounce bullets off signs and sort of metallic surfaces to get enemies out of cover. That's really cool. That was one of the things I really liked from the original, from Hard West 1. So yeah, really happy to see that back here. Also uses very similar systems into things to do with luck. If you miss a shot or get hit, then your luck meter goes up, which you can then kind of plug into kind of future actions to increase your chances of hitting something or increasing kind of the critical damage. If things are going south, say, can be a nice way to kind of pull things back.
That feels like such an elegant solution to the XCOM problem.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
If you have a 90% chance to hit and that bullet flies over their heads, I really like that the game almost pats you on the back and says, don't worry, you'll get them next time. It's such a small difference, but it feels like a huge benefit to the player. Almost like it removes all that frustration about missing shots.
Yes, definitely. I mean, another thing that is quite a nice kind of concession to the player is its bravado system, which is kind of its key feature, I would say, in that we've seen in other kind of tactics games, most notably probably Gears Tactics and more recently Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. When you KO or kind of execute an enemy, it rewards you by giving you an action point back. So you can take another action. You can either kind of attack again or move back into cover if you're out of cover. Here you get all of your action points back, which is very generous. So you can do some really quite devastating turns. You can take out absolutely reams of characters without them even being able to make a move, which is really cool and a really sort of satisfying thing to pull off. If it all kind of works out. If people played the recent beta, there was in one of the missions there was like a side objective to basically take everyone out within the first turn.
Oh wow.
I was shown a later level not that long ago, kind of a classic bank heist. There wasn't kind of an objective to do that, but the developers showed me, this is how you can use bravado to, basically take out about 8 enemies with kind of really one character. You have a team of 4 characters to take into missions with you. One of the characters, Laughing Deer, he is deadly. he's a real machine when he gets going. Kind of a very kind of melee focused character, as well as obviously there are a lot of shooters in your gang. But Laughing Deer, he's like literally kind of a bit like a steam train. Just once he starts, there's no stopping that guy.
I really like how more modern takes on this genre are putting in systems to enable you to play more aggressively. I love to hunker down in these games and hide all the time because it just feels like the safer option. But by basically saying, hey, if you knock that person out, then you can knock that other person out, you can chain them together, and that sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah, the really interesting thing about bravado is kind of talking to the developers about the game. They don't want you to hunker down behind cover and kind of play it safe. They really do want you to kind of come out into the open in true, arguably true cowboy style.
Yeah.
You are in the middle of the street shooting down these bad guys rather than cowering behind boxes and turned up tables. But the really neat thing that bravado does allow you to do is to play more aggressively like that. And because once because you get all of your action points back, you can be more risky. You can use your turn to go out to the middle of the street, shoot a guy, and then all your action points back. So you can either take that next turn, that next batch of action points to either shoot someone else or, kind of reposition yourself to a better position. A bit like XCOM, there are hit chances here. And you can see when you're deciding where to move, the UI will tell you, you've got a 75% chance of hitting this guy from here or a 100% chance from there. So it's really kind of, it gives you a lot of information to work with, and kind of lets you kind of, you're not kind of guessing, or maybe I should be able to hit this guy from here. You can really kind of like plan your moves really carefully. And as I say, with the trick shots as well, a lot of characters can ricochet bullets off things to if someone is hiding behind cover that you can't quite get. The developers told me that where there is cover, there is also often things like frying pans or board signs or things to kind of both for you to get enemies out of, but also if there's cover for you as well, the enemies can use that against you. There's certainly a lot to play with here. I mean, even in the demo that I was shown, which kind of had a few of the kind of later kind of mechanics that weren't available in the beta, one of the new characters that you'll encounter, a chap called Lazarus, has the duelist ability, which means that if someone, it's sort of basically like kind of a bit like a counter attack. If someone shoots him, he will shoot back. So sometimes, you could just deliberately leave him out of cover so that people kind of use him as target practice, but then, basically get shot back immediately, which is quite handy. Equally again, enemies have that ability too. So you'll need to kind of, it is very much about taking the time to plan and really kind of think about the moves that you've got at your disposal, how you can best use them all together. And I really enjoyed the beta, and watching the developers, people who really know how it all works, kind of show me kind of the extent of how they can all, I hate to use the word synergy, but you know what I mean, how they can all kind of work together to really do some interesting amounts of damage.
One thing I'm really interested in hearing more about, and something that I found really compelling from the trailers and the bit of gameplay that I've been watching, is that this game is very firmly, I mean, it has a lot of cowboy tropes, like you say, you're doing bank heists, you're jumping on board moving trains, you're having shootouts in a dusty settlement. But this is, the story of this game is firmly rooted in the supernatural. I mean, the crux of the game is that your band of characters have had their souls taken by the devil, and you're attempting to get them back. This also means that a lot of your characters have supernatural abilities, right?
Yes, that is correct. The very first level of the game, you're kind of doing this, a classic, train robbery. Turns out the train that you've attempted to rob is the devil's train. Oops. So this bad stuff happens, and you're sort of not only fighting against kind of supernatural enemies a lot of the time, but yes, you too have abilities that kind of dip into the supernatural. One of the characters from the beta, Flynn, has the ability to kind of swap places with characters, which again you can use to like devastating effect.
That's really cool.
Basically, transport enemies right next to your tank Laughing Deer to really mash into a pulp with his tomahawk. The Lazarus character that I mentioned earlier, he's one of the new characters you meet later on. He can swap hit points with enemies, which you can use, you can both use to kind of heal your party. So in the demo that I saw that with the bank heist, the developers used Lazarus to heal Laughing Deer, basically give Laughing Deer all of Lazarus's hit points. Then turning the tables, obviously then Lazarus doesn't have any hit points, but then you can use that twice and then, swap your hit points with a really beefy, tough enemy. So then they've got no hit points to kind of, to make it a bit easier to take him out later on.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I mean, obviously a lot of these abilities you can also level up, which I think is partly, why they could use it. That bank heist is quite late on in the game, I think. So sort of by that point, you're quite tooled up and able to use these abilities quite often. Another one of the new characters, Claylish, she can summon demons as a kind of decoy for people to kind of enemies to kind of to hone in on. So you certainly have your fair share of supernatural abilities to take advantage of, as well as fighting lots of undead. Really looking forward to seeing what kind of scenarios are later on in the game.
Yeah, same. I liked how the devil's train had like messed up spider legs.
Yes. you'd think that they would have caught on to the fact there was something maybe a bit dodgy about this train, the fact that it had mechanical spider legs trundling through the desert. Come on, guys, read the room.
Maybe this takes place in Will Smith's Wild Wild West universe.
Maybe, yes. I mean, it's sort of a similar to Hard West. The original had a very sort of similar vibe, that you were fighting against some supernatural creatures. That both this and the original, they actually kind of take quite a lot of inspiration from a pen and paper called Deadlands, which very similar setting, kind of the Weird West. The developers actually told me that they reached out to Matt Forbeck, who is kind of the co-creator of Deadlands. He actually worked kind of directly on Hard West 2, kind of working with the team on some of the story, some of the formulating kind of some of the lore and stuff. So he's actually has been directly involved in the creation of the game. So also kind of, I think, directed some of the voiceovers as well.
That's awesome.
Still rooted in its pen and paper RPG kind of origins. Quite a different proposition from Desperados 3, which is probably the closest kind of comparison that you would probably draw. But yes, this is a turn-based tactics game, whereas Desperados was real time. Also, didn't have creepy Wendigos filtering out of old abandoned mine shafts. So quite a different proposition here.
I think that makes this sound more exciting, honestly. I loved Desperados 3, and that had a very small amount of supernatural elements to it, but it always felt a little bit out of place because it never truly lent into that side. So I think the fact that this is just going, like you say, Wendigos crawling out of mine shafts, why not? Summoning demons. I've seen devils on trains in the trailers I've seen. Absolutely up for that. Yep. So really, I guess one final question for you then. We live in an era now where this genre is all over the place. We've already had things like Warhammer Chaos Gate come out this year, and people really love that game. Why should people keep Hard West 2 on their radars?
So I think kind of it is a tactics game that is just doing something a little bit different. It kind of evolves a lot of the systems that Hard West 1 kind of did into something just really kind of satisfying and very kind of cool to play. It allows you to kind of fulfill that cowboy fantasy a little bit more, in the way that Desperados sort of let you did, but never really, because it's kind of more of a stealth game, and you could use the guns, but it would literally draw everyone to your position and make it super difficult. So yes, this is much more about living that cowboy fantasy, albeit with some kind of slightly weird supernatural elements to it. From what I've seen so far, the team at Ice Code have some really neat, interesting scenarios sort of cooked up, and also just kind of it isn't just kind of pure tactics all the time. When you're kind of out of combat, it kind of plays out a bit like a kind of text adventure. You're kind of going around this map and sort of meeting a lot of sort of text-based scenarios, kind of making decisions. You kind of there are dialogue choices to make between your different characters. Backing them up in certain situations will kind of increase their loyalty towards you, which will in turn kind of unlock new moves and kind of abilities for them later on. So it's a really kind of nice mix and blend of your turn-based tactics, your cowboy rootin' tootin' shooting kind of thing, and kind of it's kind of more RPG style, kind of narrative elements to it, which I don't think those two things often aren't put together in turn-based tactics games. XCOM has the kind of extra strategy layer that with your back at your base. Gears Tactics is just kind of lots and lots of pulverizing things with chainsaws. So this is kind of quite a different blend of things, which as I say, from what I've played so far, work really well, and I'm really looking forward to playing the full game. Yeah,
me too. And this is coming to Switch, which makes me think that this will be a great fit for the Steam Deck, which makes me even more excited, because between the narrative layer and the turn-based tactics layer, this feels like the perfect game to play in small chunks on the go. So I'm really keen to get my hands on this as well. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Catherine, and thank you for telling me all about Hard West 2. We'll have more coverage of the game over on the website, but until then, thank you so much for watching, and it's bye from me and bye from Catherine.
Bye.